In life, we all encounter obstacles, and those obstacles come in all different shapes, sizes, and forms. The question is, how do we handle those obstacles? Do we attack them head on, or do we allow them to make us quit? Welcome to the No Quit Living podcast, where we aim to motivate and inspire listeners to never give up on themselves, their dreams, or their goals. We will interview successful people from all walks of life as they share their no-quit stories when they had the choice to give up or give in, but they didn't. We thank you for listening, and we hope to be that jolt of positivity as you go for your greatness. Welcome to episode number 218 of the No Quit Living podcast. I'm your host, Christopher J. Worth, and today's theme of the day is Be Exceptional. Our quote of the day comes to us from Wes Fessler. Exceptional people learn that doing their best is all they can do. Today's episode is sponsored by the good people over at West Fair Communications, who publish the Westchester County Business Journal and the Fairfield County Business Journal. These newspapers do a wonderful job in covering all aspects of the business world within two of the most influential markets in the New York metropolitan area. You can also take advantage of their daily news feeds, which keep track on the companies and thought leaders in these important regions. For more information, take a look at www.westfaironline.com. Trust me, once you start reading, you won't quit. I'm excited to bring you today's episode. Although I only recently met our guest, he and I definitely have a lot in common. From initially living in his car as a 16-year-old for 10 months and 10 days, Jason Valadao has been all about not quitting and working extremely hard. From college to becoming a doctor, an author, as well as still serving our country today, Jason gets after it each and every single day. I hope you enjoy today's episode. Jason, I'd like to welcome you to the No Quit Living podcast.
I am so excited to be here, Chris, and I'm hoping that all your listeners get a lot out of our talk today. I'm just excited. And I thank them for all tuning in, because without the people that are looking at what you're doing, we wouldn't have anyone here to listen today.
No, you're right. We'd be talking to ourselves. So first question I ask everybody is, are you ready to make it happen today?
Let's do it.
Awesome. So as you know, the number one objective of our show is to motivate and inspire people to never give up. And I was curious if you wouldn't mind sharing your no-quit story with our listeners.
Yeah. So my story, I think the best part of it, I've had a lot of these no-quit incidents in my life, but I would say in high school, I was 16, junior, had a year left of school. We had a lot of family problems, and it was May 1st, 1996. I had to start living in my vehicle, and I was literally, I'd park by the beach every night. I had a buddy that would let me in through the gate by the state park we were living near. And that was what really started this whole journey for me. It was either make a decision now, find a way to get to college, be the first one in the family to do it, keep playing high school basketball, keep my job, and keep my grades up. And so it was one of those times. And I ended up living in my truck for 10 months and 10 days. And that's when I really started writing and thinking about how can I kind of make up for what's happening now so that one day I can be significant in someone else's life. And that was my plan from then. And now 20 some years later, I get to sit here and be on the show with you today and talk to your guests about getting through their own no quit story.
I appreciate you sharing that backstory. I think it's a pretty incredible story. And I think the best part about this show is I know a lot about the guests before they come on, but I don't fully know all their stories. And I think it's incredible how you talk about that. And just, I guess, a follow-up question to that is, what was it that was going through your mind that kept you going during those tough times, especially at such a young age? Because I know where I am now at almost a 41-year-old, my mental capacity and my physical capacity at the age of 16 is very different than it is now.
Yeah. So for me, I think a lot of it had to do with the fact that I had two immigrant parents that both came to this country from different places, and they never even spoke the same language, but they had to work all the time. And we also had cancer that we were dealing with in our family. And also no one had really been educated. And so I had this in the back of my mind that, hey, I was a pretty good student, a really good student actually, in a small town of 5,000 people where most people didn't go off to college. My high school graduating class had about 180 people. And for the last time I talked to some folks, I think only like 25, 30 went off to school in those first couple years. And so it was ingrained in me at a young age. No one pushed me at home, though, about, hey, you need to go to school. But the work ethic part was ingrained. My father was a janitor, never made over $7 an hour, and died way too young from cancer. And going through those heartaches, watching him drink alcohol, but also trying to set the stage of, hey, how to work hard. And I just knew that if I either could make two decisions, go through that sliding door, that one was I'm going to do something with my life and try to make people proud, whether it was my own family or people in that town that may have been looking up to me, another kid, someone in my class, an adult that might have been trying to get out but never did, that if I could do something, it could one day go back and kind of inspire people to keep doing more. And so I don't know if it was self-motivation, inspiration, but I was just so driven and dedicated to getting out of there at 17 years old, going off to school and trying to do something.
No, that's really important. And I think, like you said, it's the work ethic that a lot of us follow. And it doesn't mean that you have to follow in the exact same footsteps. But, to me, my father and my mother always worked extremely hard. And my father is probably one of, if not the hardest working people I've ever met. And it's kind of my role model in many ways. And like you said, I think it's neat is you want to work hard because you don't know if it's for your family, someone's watching, or somebody else. But today's day and age, there are so many people out there. And that's kind of the gist of our show is we want to connect every single episode, every single day with somebody that can say, hey, you know what? Listening to this guest or listening to this show, it made me not want to give up, and I kept on going.
Yes, sir.
So I wanted to just ask if you wouldn't mind just telling our listeners a little bit about who you are and what you're doing today.
You got it. So I am currently on active duty in the U.S. Navy. I'm on year 19 now. I first started where I became a Naval Flight Officer, so I was getting to fly around in planes for about 9 years. But during that time, I also was fortunate to go to the University of California, Berkeley, one of the top public schools in the country, to teach Naval ROTC. And it was during that time also that my Navy boss said, hey, when your job is done every day, do whatever you want on the side. So I got a higher education degree, started working with the UC Berkeley football team, started mentoring a lot of young men who came from broken homes, and they were actually getting selected to go to the NFL. And so that was kind of my first bridge into using my life experience, per se, to help these guys who may have been struggling, who were about to maybe make a lot of money, but not know how to take care of that. And so I got really mixed in with that around 2007, did that for 3 years, and then went back and forth and was like, well, do I keep flying in the Navy? Do I do this? And I had always wanted to become a physician. So in 2010, I was afforded the opportunity to go to medical school. And through that time, in the last 9 years, I became a family medicine physician and am now finishing up a fellowship in sports medicine at Baylor University before I head out to take over as the medical director for the Naval Academy Prep School in Newport, Rhode Island.
I don't think you do enough. I think you should maybe see if you could try to fit some more things in your schedule.
Well, everybody says that, but I think it's what keeps me going, Chris, is that a lot of people say, hey, maybe you're doing too much, you're going to get burnt out. And I think for me, it's a balance thing. And it really is where I've turned my life not into work versus my passions, but I've combined them. And so that's what really makes it flow so well. With my wife, my 2 kids, we're able to incorporate those things. And I don't feel burnt out. I get up every morning really early. I exercise. It gets my day started. And really, I just want to have the greatest effect on the greatest number of people. And I know that the only way to do that is to keep giving my best self. And it's also why the title of my book, Exceptional Every Day, because I think we can all be significant in other people's lives.
So we'll touch on your book in a second, but have to go back to the morning routine. Is as you know, having listened to the show, we're big believers of the importance of a morning routine. So got to ask you, what is your morning routine?
Yeah, so I'm going to put this out there because I think you're going to appreciate it, especially with your guests. Is the morning routine starts the night before. So one thing that I do is I have my bag ready for the next day. I get up every morning around 4:30. And I have a glass of water, 16 ounces already made. I put it on the sink in the bathroom. So the first thing I do when I get up is I chug a glass of water. And I really believe in that as a physician, someone who's really into nutrition. There's been a lot of studies that have proven that first couple glasses of water in the day can get your body going, makes everything flow better. So I do that every time. Like I said, I've got my bag ready to go. I get up, get the teeth brushed, and then I don't eat in the morning. I like to work out before eating. So I try to get a good hour to 90 minutes of working out in. For the first 15 or 20 minutes while I'm warming up on either a bike or a treadmill just to get the juices flowing, I usually read. And I like reading actual books. So I'm always reading a personal growth, self-help, some kind of business book for the first 15, 20 minutes when I get that workout going. And then everything's away. I don't have my cell phone out during my workout. I just get going for 60 minutes, pretty vigorous intensity. And that's really how my day starts. And that's almost 7 days a week. I may alter that on a Saturday or Sunday so that I can incorporate my 2 young daughters into my workouts in the afternoon when they're ready to go. But that's really how it goes, Chris. And then I'm I'm going full in with work. I'm balancing my actual clinic responsibilities along with kind of this other stuff that goes on in my life, and trying to just make it all happen.
That's awesome. I couldn't echo that more and more as far as how much I think it's important to really master whatever your morning routine. And the reason we ask that question is I want to have my listeners think about different things. There's no right or wrong morning routine. I think it's whatever works for you. But have to ask, because you do read every day, if there's anything you're reading currently or you read recently that you'd like to recommend to our listeners.
You know, and like I was telling you, I read a lot of different books. So the most recent books in the last about 10 to 12 days, and I go through a book about every 3 days, but I like to take notes when I read. So that gets a little challenging. People laugh. They're like, man, he's got the treadmill at 15 degrees and he's taking notes, or I'm on the Stairmaster going really quick to warm up. And I literally have a note card with a pen. And so that slows me down on my reading. But the couple books I just read in the last week or two, as I mentioned, I read Mark Manson's book. I don't want to say
I got
the actual word, but he's had a couple good books, bestsellers. And, you know, he really opened my eyes to some things about not letting things get you down and kind of shrugging your shoulders and moving on. And one of the books I just finished a few days ago was one called Coddling of the American Mind. And I think it is actually fantastic in terms of kind of where we're at in society right now, where we've got such an increase in anxiety, depression, and even suicide, especially in our adolescence and our youth, because of just like social media, number one, where people are comparing themselves to everyone else and not themselves. And I'm also reading a book now called Hacking the Gap. And it's where you put your innovation and your intellect together. It's by a guy named Greg Voisin. I was on his podcast, and he's got an awesome way to look at life in terms of being an entrepreneur and really getting yourself going. So those are the three right now that I'm kind of processing.
That's awesome. And wanted to ask you, what does success, or how do you personally define success?
I love that question. I probably get asked that more than anything because of where I'm at, and people look at me as being successful, even though for me, I don't ever use that word for myself. And I'll tell you what it means to me. It's where when you can get up in the morning and you can give yourself to other people without ever expecting anything in return. And that has been something that I've really believed in from all the students that I've had, whether it's been teaching at a university, teaching in the master's courses that I teach now for an online program, the Navy, all the soldiers and sailors that I've taken care of in the Marine Corps and the Navy. It's really just being able to be significant in other people's lives. It's not about money. It's not about writing a book. It's not about how many likes you get on a website. And that really is what I wake up for every morning, is just grateful that I'm able to connect with so many people.
I think that's a perfect definition, and it goes hand in hand with what we talk about in regards to paying it forward with zero expectations. So if I had to ask you to define yourself in one word, what would that word be?
I love this question because you do this on different podcasts. So one word, I would have to say dedicated. And I say that because there's a lot of words. I know we don't have time for all of them, but dedicated is one that has resonated with me because it's what a lot of people have painted me with, or they've said, man, you're the most dedicated person I know. From your experience, from what you're going through, battling cancer, going through the military, all these things, and now doing all this other stuff. I truly feel like when I get my mind on something, I want to do everything I can to see it through.
No, I think dedication it's key to anything. And I was on a podcast last night, and the title is Go All In. And I think it just echoes dedication, is you have to give it your all. And it doesn't mean you're always going to succeed, but you'll have no regrets.
100%.
So going back to your book, I believe you said before we went live that it's been out for about 10 weeks now. So I wanted to ask if you wouldn't mind just telling our listeners a little bit about it, and more importantly, where they can find it if they're interested.
You got it. Yeah, I appreciate you bringing that up. And one of the things that for me is it's really been more about my message and truly not trying to sell the book, although I know that's what the expectation is with a publisher, and we're making good things happen for people's lives. So the title of my book is Exceptional Every Day, an empowering process to unlock your why and transform your life. And really what my book is all about is helping people design the life that they want. I look at guys like you, Chris, and what you're doing with your life that you've done over the last 15, 20 years to really have an impact on people. And you've designed the life you want with your coaching services, your background in finance and business, and the sports that you love. And so really that's the keystone of my book, the elevator speech, if you will. It's that I want people to pick it up, not use it as a one-time read, but really do the reflection questions at the end of every chapter and really understand that the book is to help you reset your priorities, whatever those could be, and design the life that you actually want so that your work and passion lines up, so you can be significant, so you can leave a legacy, you can work on your health and nutrition. And I cover all those topics in about 12 chapters. And it's really an easy, enjoyable read for people that they can leave on their desk and kind of go back and reflect.
No, I think it sounds like something obviously I would be interested in reading, and obviously a lot of our listeners know that we definitely talk about books all the time. So for listeners that would like to follow up or not only the book but find out more about you, what's the best way for them to go about doing that?
Yeah, so the best ways right now would be my website. It's just Jason, Jason, with my last name, Valadao, VALADAO.com. That's my personal website where I've got a ton of free resources. There's links for the books. There's videos that I've made that talk about the book. There's also a lot of free resources in terms of health and wellness, physical therapy, exercises, diets you can institute. Nothing people have to pay for. It's all downloadable. I've got over about 50 to 100 PDFs on there for people to do, with a lot of cool pictures to make it easy, because I really want people to grab this stuff and go. And then there's links to Amazon, Barnes & Noble, 800 CEO Read. You can really find the book everywhere right now. And we're also in the midst of looking at creating an audio book here, hopefully soon. Just another thing I have to invest in, but I know it's going to help be able to reach a lot more people.
That's awesome. If you need a voiceover, let me know.
You got it.
So, assuming the 20-year-old version of yourself would have listened, what would be the one piece of advice you'd like to go back and give the 20-year-old version of yourself?
That is a great question, and one that I've thought about a lot, but it didn't hit me till I started talking to you this morning. I think the thing that I would have told myself at 20, which was about 20 years ago, is you have to really believe in yourself and have confidence. I think I could have been having an effect on even more people earlier on in my life if I would have had that. I struggled with a lot of confidence issues. A lot of that had just to do with how I was growing up, and I'm a quiet, maybe a self-proclaimed introvert, although people meeting me and then hearing this podcast today may say, wow, he's extroverted. He's talking, he's getting everything going, the juices are flowing. But I really think that's what it would have been, is like, step out of your shell and be okay with people looking at you with an odd face, and don't worry about it. Don't let people's judgment affect where you can go with your life.
No, I think it's interesting that when you go back into your middle school and high school years, the people that we were all quote unquote worried about or trying to impress, not that they're bad people and not that we shouldn't have cared about them, but the reality is that most of them are not in our lives today. And I think we all spend a lot of time worrying about things that ultimately don't come to fruition. So I think that's great advice. And kind of a follow-up question, a fun question is, if I could offer you the opportunity to have dinner with anybody, dead or alive, who would you pick and why?
Dead or alive. This is great. So, I think about this all the time because it's actually something I use in some of my coaching talks. So one of the people for sure, and this can go either way with the listeners out there, but I think Oprah Winfrey. She has done some incredible stuff from her beginnings to what she's done for people's lives, not just about having a TV talk show, but the effect that she's had on so many people throughout the world. It's not like she just affected a city. I mean, she's affected countries. And so I think being able to sit and talk with Oprah and see what really makes her tick and how she is behind closed doors would be incredible. If I didn't say a guy's name, Napoleon Hill, which I know you know who that is. He has been probably the most influential person that I've never met because of his work. I mean, still my favorite book, which is not really a book, it's a volume treatise, is The Law of Success. And it has been so fundamental in my development, and I only wish I would have had it sooner. And also his other book, Think and Grow Rich, and really what that means. And there's a lot of other people. I think one of the other ones that I'll throw out there for today would be Phil Knight, who started Nike. And not only because I'm a sports enthusiast like yourself, but because of what Phil Knight did to start his blue ribbon business out of the trunk of his car, and that he never gave up. I mean, yeah, he was a great runner. He went to the University of Oregon and knew Bill Bowerman. But for what he did to make that empire, it had to be more about things than money. And it was for him. It was about the people. And you look at the story about the first couple people that helped him start his business and how he was so dedicated and loyal to those people that were there at the beginning, how he had to ask, one of the guys had to ask his parents for some money to invest so they could actually do something. And reading Phil's book has been amazing as well. But I think those three is who I'd start with, but there are a ton more.
I think that would be, if we could have all three of them together, I would like to just be the waiter or the server, because I think the knowledge, it would probably be the first dinner I'd ever been at where I probably wouldn't want to say a single word.
Exactly.
So one of the things that I know you know that we talk about quite often is the word accountability. And I just wanted to get your perspective on what accountability means to you.
And it's great because I think one thing that you offer that I think I saw on your website was how you have this accountability, like 2-pager.
Yep.
And it's great because I have developed similar things that I use for my military guys. And that word is actually hung over the door when you leave our house. And so my daughters that are 7 and 9, they see that every day, like, Dad, you've liked this word for so long. And what I've employed on them about that, and what I share with people, is that when you're really accountable, it's one thing to be responsible. And I like to break those up, because to be accountable is you've got to look at yourself in the mirror when you get up in the morning and think about all the things you have to get done for the day. It's not just about, hey, I've got to take care of this at work, or I've got to make sure I get gas for my car. Those are kind of responsibility things. For accountability, it's all the other people in your lives, all the things that you have to do. And the only person that can let down your accountability is you. That if something doesn't get done, then you weren't accountable. And it's that easy. It's something that the military really puts on us every day for those of us in uniform. And I look at it as kind of the bedrock. And that's why, no kidding, I made this sign for my girls about 2 years ago, so they would see that when they got up every day.
That's awesome. And obviously it's a word that's become kind of our go-to, and our clothing line we have on the back is #accountability. And I love that word, because it doesn't matter whether you're a sports enthusiast, movies, business, you know, it doesn't matter where you are. Everybody knows what it means or doesn't mean to be accountable. And I just think it's really neat in that regard. So wanted to ask you kind of where this interview's been going, and I'm interested to get your feedback. Is people face challenges all the time. I don't care where you are in your life and career. But the question I have for you is why is it that some people, when they face those challenges, throw in the towel, and others just refuse to quit?
Yeah, that is a really good question. It's actually something that I try to dive into a lot with my coaching clients and with my patients, more than almost anything, because I think medicine itself has given me a lot of good examples of people that do that, whether they get a diagnosis of cancer, whether I tell them they've got to stop smoking before they can have this certain orthopedic surgery procedure done. To me, like I was telling you in the beginning, that self-motivation, that intrinsic drive, it comes from different places for everybody. We all grow up differently. I like to tell people, hey, we all got dealt a set of cards when we were born. And you can have the worst set of cards. And I don't know anything about playing poker. I'm not a gambler. But what I do know is that you can take those cards and you can make something out of them. I've really stuck by that. And so I think what helps is that guys like us that are really getting out there about personal growth, we're always trying to get better. We understand the value of, hey, someone else has done this better than us. We can learn from them. And I think the only way to kind of get yourself there, if you are someone who is struggling with, God, I don't know why I keep quitting at this, or this person told me I was a loser, so I'm not good at this anymore. You've got to really try and educate yourself. And that doesn't mean getting a college degree. There are resources everywhere, especially with the way that the internet is now. You can pretty much find anything. Sifting through it is the hard part. But, I think that internal drive, Chris, it comes from different places. And for me, it was that early adversity. And I think a lot of people that will tell you that whether they've been labeled as being successful or not, had something, whether it was in their childhood, adolescence, or even in their 20s and 30s, something happened in their life that got them to the point where they're like, I can't quit at anything anymore. I have to keep going.
No, I appreciate your answer. And I think it's true. I think going back to your dinner guest, the first one you said, Oprah Winfrey, I'm a big fan of some of the work she's done. But the thing that really sticks to me is she shares people's stories, and she's done it obviously her entire career on her show. And now that she's retired from the show, she does it through a podcast and she does it through other things. But one of the things that I was fascinated probably within the last 3 or 4 years when I started doing research on different people is she talks about failure all the time. And she has a quote, and I'm not going to butcher it because I don't remember, but basically the gist of it is the most successful people fail more often than everybody else. And I think it's such a cliche because everyone says, oh, you're a failure, but you're only a failure if you stay down and if you get knocked down and you refuse to get up. But I think it's interesting in how you said it is different, and it's our internal drive, and it does come from all different places. And I think your perspective on that question is really spot on, because it's literally where you go back to a certain point in your life, and it could be a week ago, a month ago. It doesn't have to be 10, 15, 20 years ago. But I think we all go back to things that have happened. And being a former athlete myself, when I'm on the free throw line, whether I'm playing in the men's league at the age of 40 or when I was 15 or 16 in high school, I go back to a time, to a game, to a practice where I went to the line and I knocked down 2 free throws. And I think that's the best part in life, is we all have the opportunity to continue to go on. So interesting question for you. But if I could magically snap my finger and you could be exactly 1 year from today and you could have accomplished any one goal, what would that one goal be?
I love it. So for me, because I'm such a realist and where I'm at right now, 1 year from today, June 21st, first day of summer, but 2020, I would love to be able to know that after a year of having got my book out there, putting myself out there, trying to make an impact on people's lives, that I would be able to look back and say, you know what, I may have made no money at all. I may have actually lost money in the investments I made, but I've had so many people tell me that something I did, whether it was for 30 seconds or 60 seconds or 5 minutes of my time, had a huge impact on their life, that it totally made them change the course and path that they were on. And I talk about that a lot with people, about how 30 seconds can change a life. You could be walking down the street, and that's what I do. I walk down the street, I see a homeless person. It's not about just helping them, but it's trying to just even smile, not putting your face down and looking at the ground, but acknowledging that they're another human being. And for me, a year from now, if I can continue to see people's lives change just by me saying hello, by me sending an email, by me responding to a text message, or someone reading a blog post that I write once a week, that's it for me, man. And that's where I feel like I'm going. I'm still constricted by the Navy, so I can't get out of the Navy for the next few years. Or else maybe I'd be the team physician for an NBA team somewhere, because that's one of the life goals for me too. But we'll see.
If that happens, you can hire me. I'll be your assistant. I just got to go back to what you just said a couple of seconds ago, because it really hit me. Is at the end of the podcast, I kind of have wrap-ups and things, and I know some people listen to them and some people don't, which is fine, because the fact that they're listening at all I'm extremely appreciative of. But one of the things that we talk about is paying it forward, and I'll have either a challenge or one of those things that I'll end the show with. And what you just said about smiling at a homeless person and not putting your head down, it's something that I think our country is in dire need of. It's that human connection where you actually, spend 30 seconds or 20 seconds. And like you said, 30 seconds can make or break somebody's life. And I don't want to say it's that amazing where, someone's contemplating suicide and then you smile at them and it changes everything. But the reality is, you smile at somebody, it's going to have a positive impact on their day. It doesn't mean their day is going to be perfect. It doesn't mean their day is going to be, unstoppable, but it's something like that, or holding the door open for somebody, or letting a car go in front of you in traffic, or giving somebody a space in front of you. It's just those little things that it's what our country was built on, is coming over to this country and being there for each other. So I'm really glad you touched on that, because I think it's such an important thing that people don't talk about enough.
Right. No, I'm glad you said it in your words, because it does sound better than mine. You put it together, but that's what I'm most grateful for. And it's true. We just don't connect with people anymore. We're communicating, or we think we are, because we're on text messages, we're on social media, which is all awesome. And podcasts are helping reach a lot more people. But what we're losing is that real personal touch. And I think there's still something to be said about the spoken word, picking up the phone and actually talking to someone on the phone that you care about, or spending time with someone. Maybe you're volunteering yourself somewhere, and just finding ways to actually connect with people.
I think that's so important. And don't get me wrong, technology is amazing, and obviously in your medical field, we're able to save lives and help people differently. But it doesn't mean that just because we have an ability to connect easier, quicker with technology, that we should miss that. And I think we do miss it as a country, and I think as a world too.
Yes, sir.
So I wanted to change lanes here into what we call our hot seat questions. And the only request we have of you is that you just spit out the first thing that comes to mind.
Okay, I'm ready to play.
Awesome. So if you had one last meal and you could choose absolutely anything, what would you choose?
Spinach.
Oh, seriously?
I'm a health nut, man. Sorry.
I thought you were joking, but all right, we'll allow you to have that.
I try to make it fun.
Favorite sport?
Basketball.
Favorite team?
Duke Blue Devils.
Favorite smell?
The ocean.
Do you have an all-time favorite quote?
Oh, there's so many. There are so many. I'm trying to think of a good one in my mind here. You stumped me on this one.
All right, that's good. We can come back to it. All-time favorite movie?
Oh, you got me good. Stand By Me.
Favorite book?
Napoleon Hill, The Law of Success.
Favorite singer, group, or band?
Yeah, this is tough now. You got me.
That's good. I like to stump you a little bit.
Gosh, you really got me. That was, because I didn't grow up with a lot of music. Oh, man. We got to pass.
All right, pass it. And now, if you are stuck in a foxhole, you can only pick one person to have your back. Who would it be?
My friend Todd.
So, last question for you is wanted to ask you if you have some parting words you'd like to leave with our listeners today.
I would like to tell everybody who was grateful that everybody tuned in to listen to us talk. And I would tell everybody that you need to go out there and attack life, that we don't know how long we're going to live, honestly, and whether that's because of disease, because of some traumatic accident that could happen. So make every day count. And you and I talked earlier, Chris, before the show about Today Matters. But really, when John Maxwell put that title on the book, it really does matter because nothing is guaranteed. We can't go back and fix yesterday, and we have no idea what's going to happen tomorrow. So I would tell all your listeners, make every minute of today, 86,400 seconds that we get for this 24-hour period right now, and make it all count.
I love it. 86,400. I say that in almost every single speech on stage because it's so important.
I love it.
I truly, truly appreciate your time, and hopefully we can connect again soon.
Yes, sir. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you for listening to episode number 218. I think the title of Jason's new book, Exceptional Every Day, truly speaks about who he is as a person. I joked on the episode that Jason doesn't do enough, but the reality is that each and every single one of us make time for who and what is important in our lives. Jason defines success as the opportunity to get up each day and to give yourself to others while never expecting anything in return, being significant in other people's lives. In his parting words, Jason spoke about the importance of getting out there and attacking life, and as nothing is guaranteed, make every single day count. Jason also touched upon how a simple gesture, such as smiling at a stranger or even saying hello to them, can have such a positive impact on other people's day as well as their lives. So my challenge to you today is just that. I challenge every single listener to either smile or say hello to 10 people today. Not 8 or 7 or 5, 10 people. Say hello, smile, and as you go for your greatness today, pay it forward to others with zero expectations in return. And lastly, to our listeners, thank you. We truly appreciate your time, and we hope our episodes inspire you to keep on attacking life and never giving up. To quote Dr. Norman Vincent Peale, it's always too early to quit.